Managing partner at Tanto Capital Partners. And Ozan, I think let's just go wide first, and then we can narrow in on some of these countries like Turkey. But just from the wider lens of asset classes that are attractive, is emerging debt and equity and perhaps even currencies, are they becoming more attractive at this point given the swathe of underperformance that we've seen against developed markets? Is this a time to start re-entering trades in this particular asset class?
A very good morning to you and the team, and it's a great question. I think the real answer to this is that emerging markets, like most asset classes, will find it difficult to attract capital on a more broad brush kind of perspective, because EM is a very, very large geographical area if you think about it. So I think there'll be significant decoupling. But decoupling based on what? Decoupling based on those countries that are net energy exporters, so commodity producers, and also those countries in the region that can provide the strong type of regional security alliances to those countries that are energy exporters. Because we live in, as we all know, very uncertain times right now with the war, with the energy crisis that we're going through, the food crisis, the food supply crisis that we're going through. So I think it'll be an element of, are the EM countries in question geostrategically important as part of the global kind of ally network? Do they offer a prospective hedge against over-dependence on, say, a risk like Chinese manufacturing? And are they net energy exporters or importers? And depending on your answer, I think investors will have to be very careful in analyzing EM country by country based on what we're going through right now.
Well, let me ask you then, as you look at relative places to park capital at the moment, you've obviously focused on energy as a differentiator, but where are you seeing opportunity right now to park money? Which countries do you think are looking poised for a better performance going forward, or at least are resilient against some of the headwinds that are emerging?
Look, I would say from the EM countries, India stands out. India's importance in terms of providing that Asia pivot, both the US and the Western countries, has not evaporated. I think geostrategically, despite of the strong local economic headwinds, Turkey is a good medium to long-term place to look at investing, although there are significant challenges also linked to the election dynamics that we are looking at right now. I think in a longer term prospect, and I do take energy as a core asset class that's going to become more and more relevant over the short term, looking at certain Gulf countries, even countries like Azerbaijan, who possibly will become a balancing factor in our overdependence in Russian energy, will be an interesting location to look at. I think countries that will suffer will be more Latin American countries, and also to an extent African countries. But within the EMEA region, larger countries that have large enough internal economies that can have and do have a seat on the geostrategic table are those to watch out for.
And I want to pick up on that point where you talk about Turkey effectively providing that bridge to dialogue with Russia. There's been a big debate as to whether Turkey is a peacemaker here or just an opportunist trying to expand their own ambitions at this stage. How does this impact the way a lot of investment managers view Turkey at this stage? Has there been any improvement on the back of what we've seen around the geopolitics?
I think it's a great question. Look, Turkey is a NATO country, a very big one at that. It is a traditional ally of the West, but because of its geopolitical and strategic and geographical position, it is a natural country to try to provide a counterbalance to Russia, and also a location to keep certain channels of dialogue open in a world where we are seeing risk factors that are shooting up. And one example is how Turkey has played a crucial role in reopening grain shipments and averted a short-term food crisis in places like Egypt. Having said that, Turkey has to play and is walking a very tight rope right now. And it has to strike a very delicate balance between keeping dialogue and providing a pivot towards Russia when need be, and also not threading over European and most certainly US sanctions towards Russian entities. And I think the biggest risk factor, but also the biggest opportunity for a country like Turkey is to strike that balance. And balance is the key word here. Turkey is most certainly, in my perspective, an ally of the West. It's very Western facing. Its economy is very Western dependent, whether it be in capital markets or the composition of its exports. But, from an energy market perspective, food market perspective, and also provision of regional security to certain commodity producers in the region, and providing a credible bridge for energy transfer from producing states to Europe, it is an important ally to the West.
Ozan, and as we know, S-400s plus F-35s just don't work for the West. But moving away from that absolutely important point you just raised about the key position geographically that Turkey has, and if any of our viewers don't understand why it's so important, just look at a map. It is absolutely pivotal to East meets West. But there is another problem, and you know more about this than I do, Ozan, and that is ongoing tensions with fellow NATO member Greece. Now, whether we're talking about energy exploration, whether we're talking about islands in the Aegean, which there's been a lot of tension over most recently, there is a growing worry that at some stage there's going to be a mistake either by the Greeks or the Turks, which is going to lead to a hot war between the two nations. How concerned should we be about some of these issues?
I am not concerned about that with Greece. So Turkey and Greece, I should say, have a long history of having certain tensions in the region. It's historical. Both NATO allies. I don't think it's in the interest or in the minds of any of the two countries to actually escalate this to a hot war. So I'm not concerned about that. What will invariably possibly happen is that, look, all politics are local, and we know what happens in election cycles in certain countries, in any country, where the agenda shifts from the tougher discussions onto potential regional security issues. So I think what we are living, and possibly what we'll live for a short period of time, is a more heated rhetoric between the countries. But I most certainly don't think that it is a plausible option for both countries to go into to any form of hot war.
Ozan, we're going to say goodbye, but thank